Hello folks, welcome back, hope you're doing well. So welcome to another One Piece review. This time we're covering manga chapter 1156. Now even though this flashback of King Harold / Loki has centered around the Rocks Pirates somehow, as well as getting more hype on the Rocks Pirates, you actually get some hype on the Roger Pirates too, so that was pretty cool. But in the back of your mind, you have to think, with all this hype about the Rocks Pirates being formed in this chapter, Oda would have to circle this to Elbaph somehow, since that's where the flashback is taking place and where this all connects. So it does make sense as to why the Rocks Pirates are integrated into this and why Oda's focusing so much into the Rocks Pirates in this current King Harold flashback. I also like the fact that Oda kind of hyped up the Kuja Pirates in this era as well. I'll get to that. There's a lot to dissect when it comes to that portion of the chapter, which I honestly thought was the better half, in my opinion. Speaking of beautiful women, we have Nami and Robin on the colour spread because we've got the whole Straw Hat crew with a colour spread for the second chapter in a row. So obviously the previous colour spread was at the 28-year anniversary. In the back of my mind, is this Oda kind of like telling us, hey, be patient, I got you, we're going to get to the Straw Hats in due time? Because I know deep down a lot of people want to get to what's going on in the present right now. Granted, we are getting some hype moments in this flashback, but I think if people are being honest with themselves, we really want to see what's going on in the present involving the Straw Hats. This is maybe it's just me that Oda's giving a response like, hey, I got you, here's the second colour spread with the Straw Hats on, the whole Straw Hat crew. What's really cool about this too, you also got the previous monster trio in the form of Roger, Rayleigh and Scopper, and you got the current date monster trio in Luffy, Zoro and Sanji. Zoro and Sanji are bandaged up, kind of going back and forth at each other like cats and dogs, I would imagine. It's adorable because you got Luffy running, then you got Chopper and Robin on both of the shoulders of Luffy. Then you got Jinbei, Frankie and Usopp in a bag that Luffy's carrying, so that's pretty cool. Now, Nami is the only one who's not attached to Luffy, though I will say, if you look at that scene, she is giving Luffy some interesting eye contact. So we start off the chapter with the adventures of the Kuja Pirates back in the day, back during this King Harold backstory. And you notice the Kuja Pirates because of the reactions the male residents and the male marines are having on this port. Not only have been taken down by the Kuja Pirates, but also the expressions and the fact that it's the women that are getting angry by their downfall. So, oh, you guys suck. You guys suck. So, not surprising though, because we see the Kuja Pirates in plain view with a ship. Oda introduces Glorious Soa with a goddess-like introduction because she walks into frame, very, very Boa Hancock style, I have to say. And everything, even the reaction the women are having is very similar to what we got with Boa Hancock. The way she's the pose, everything. So I guess now we know who Boa Hancock got her waist from. But then immediately following that, we get another previous empress show up in the form of Tritoma. I'll get to that in a second. But she shows up with a handful of fan letters that have been written to Glorious Soa, which is a handful, literally. But in the background, you see a whole huge basket full of fan letters, and Glorious Soa asks Tritoma, what the hell's with that? Tritoma pretty much nonchalantly responds, oh, that's for Lady Shaku Yaku. Another previous empress. She's got 100 times more, so you would think with Glorious Soa being a member or affiliated with the Rocks Pirates, you would think Glorious Soa would be the main attraction of this scene. You would think that, but Shaku Yaku, aka Shaki, says, hold my beer. Because immediately, Glorious Soa is immediately upstaged by Shaku Yaku and her popularity. Which, considering what we see, is not surprising and it's understandable. So she gets very, very petty about this. Keep in mind here, Glorious Soa is pretty much the captain of the Kuja Pirates at this point in time. And immediately her radiance and her beauty changes to admiration because she sees the Kuja Pirate gets an alert with the Roger Pirates coming in. You see the Aura Jackson and the Roger Pirates are showing up. Glorious Soa immediately perks up. And this is how you know she has the hots for Roger, because she has the same expression you would see Boa Hancock give anytime she sees Luffy. So how ironic So the Roger pirates are here. They're here to take Shakuyaku for themselves. They're not interested in Glory Soa. They're interested in Shakuyaku. And oh man, this scene got me so much because immediately after getting upstaged by Shakuyaku, she comes into scene. She kicks down the door. Says, "Oh, you're here to come take me again? Give it a try." Meanwhile, you got members of the Roger pirates completely affected and succumb to the beauty and the radiance of Shakuyaku, aka Shaki. With the exception of Rayleigh, we come to find out, who's the only one who's not affected by this. As you see, flowers held by crew members of the Roger pirates withering away. You got Scarpa, who's completely affected by this. Roger, we come to find out, who's also affected by her beauty. Now, Scarpa is the first of the top tier to get kicked and leveled by Shakuyaku. So that was pretty funny. Then Roger tries to retaliate. He charges in, doesn't work. He gets taken down. In fact, you don't even get to see what she does, as she just lights one up and just says, "Hey." And then she says, "I'll never submit to another's captivity." I mean, after handing Roger an L, no matter how you look at it, it's an L. For as Oda hypes it up as well, even a beauty humbled the mightiest of warriors. So the King of the Pirates is not immune to this, which I kind of like in a way, because it kind of changes the trope a little bit, because we know for a fact Luffy does not suffer from this. He doesn't get affected by this at all. But Roger is a completely different story. So now, understandably so, Shaki back in the day was a complete smoke show, literally and figuratively. Two things to keep in mind in this situation. One, you can you can say this is a kind of a trope, but in the same breath and same token, if Roger is as much of a beast as Oda's trying to hype up, so you would think even if he did have these restrictions dealing with a woman like Shaki back in the day, you would think he would have the presence of mind to dodge attacks, but no, he's not immune to that either. So we have to give Shaki credit as well. So then you see Rayleigh, who's not affected by it, is the only one not affected by this. Then you got Shaki walking by and says, "Oh, it must be half of you." And Rayleigh's like, "Yeah, I'm surrounded by idiots." But then she gives him the wink, so planting the seeds for what's to come. So the second part of this is Rayleigh is a lucky man, I will say. Now, we also got to find out Shakuyaku is the first mate, the second in command of the Kuja Pirates, behind Glory Soa, but she's already upstaging Glory Soa, who should be the vocal point considering she's going to be affiliated with the Rocks Pirates very soon. And speaking of Glory Soa, you got immediately Glory Soa trying to snap Roger out of the trance he's in, because she's like, "You know, I'm the only one that likes you, right?" And you got Roger "Out the way, you're blocking my view of Shaki." Talk about the disrespect. But immediately following that, things really go south, because we see a marine ship pull up, so you know it's about to go down. It leads to a hockey clash between Roger and Garp. But immediately, this whole scene is about hyping up Shakuyaku. This hockey clash, by the way, knocks out Glory Soa. So even though she's the captain, she gets affected by the Conqueror's hockey. And Shakuyaku, who's not affected by this, tries to snap her out of it. Considering Oda's hyping up the Kuja Pirates here, and he does mention their wanted posters fetched high prices. I kind of would like to see the bounty prices, especially considering we know what Boa Hancock is above $1 billion. Which is the highest female that we've thus far. We don't know how much higher Robbins is going to go after Elbaph. But yeah, this is all hyping up Shakuyaku and the Kuja Pirates. It shifts back to Elbaph, which is where the center of this flashback is taking place. So we find out that Loki tried to take a ship and set sail to try and find rocks, but that didn't work out. He got himself drowned and got rescued, and a captain kind of hesitated, and Ida calls him out on this because she's like, "Why did you hesitate?" So that goes to show you the level of care she has for someone who's not a child. And Ida continues to be the best character of this entire Elbaph flashback. Not even close, because she's trying to warm up and give Loki a reason to hey, you can find your place here. We could take you in. Haradin is like, "No." But then Loki, completely distrustful of all of this, is like, "I don't trust you because you've acted motherly just to gain access to the castle." Which forces Haradin and Harold to have a crash out. Honestly, understandably so, because at this point, Loki's completely acting like a brat here. As an infant, yeah, you can kind of see it's like justifiable as he was growing up, but here you can see he knows better. Especially with what we've seen recently. So nobody's innocent with the exception of Ida in this flashback. So it's like, this is the thing that Oda's like focusing on the most, because it has to have the payoff of Haradin and Loki with the reconciliation, and it has to be emotional in order for it to work. And this is what I said in the last chapter, though, with like the Callisto we got with Zoro and Sanji, and we know they are on their way up to like take care of like, or at least battle the Holy Knights. But this is what I said by this already feels like an afterthought because of the way Oda's orchestrating this. Like, the hype now is with Haradin and Loki joining forces, getting over the differences, joining up with Luffy to take care of like the Holy Knight. So like I said, like other groups show up, like Cross Guild or maybe even Blackbeard's crew. Like, unless we get more pirate crew showing up, like, we only have the 3 Holy Knights. Now, granted, like, it's not like Gunko / Emu, and the Devil Transformation isn't a joke. Like, it could take the combined efforts of all 3. We don't know. Zoro and Sanji have had the least amount of impact when you talk about the entire Straw Hat crew when it comes to Elbaph. So, I don't know if they're good at... if Oda's going to have them bow out of the spotlight and have it given to the rest of the crew, which I'm totally on board with, like I said in the previous review. This outburst from Loki is pretty much forcing another child to like cry because she doesn't like how Ida's being addressed by Loki. Loki gets even more triggered by this and doubles down. He's like, I'm sick of this country. I can't stand you. He rejects Elbaph and he rejects how these people live. So I'm going to be free like Rocks. For better or worse, obviously Rocks is an influence on Loki's life. He tries to get Rocks to like join up with the Rocks pirates following this. And this is Oda covering his tracks, like I said a couple of reviews ago, with a scene we got months ago involving Whitebeard and Zebek, and them two being the only ones showing up on Elbaph. But obviously we know more members showed up on Elbaph in the form of Stussy and Shiki. But we know there's more crew members that join up. So they'll repeatedly go back and forth. So this is Oda covering his tracks. Then it cuts to Hachinosu, Parrot Island, where... So Oda takes this opportunity to have Kyo the Wicked, Silver Axe, show up on Parrot Island to confront Zebek. Kyo the Wicked is also a rival to Shiki. And this is actually kind of cool how the skull was formed, because he blows the base away and you see the eye, so it resembles a skull. So that's actually really cool. But how Zebek did that. So then Zebek goes on to say, as I was saying, there's 2 devil fruits I'm after. So is that confirming he's also able to consume 2 devil fruits? Because it really wasn't specified if he had a devil fruit beforehand. So this would make perfect sense. And considering we know his son has the power of 2 devil fruits, that would make perfect sense. If it has something to do with biology or his genes from his papa. We also come to find out that Charlotte Linlin, Captain John, Strusen Parrot Barbell, who is a catfishman, and Kaido, obviously, become members of the Rocks Pirates at this point in time. But we know that's not the only members affiliated with them. Linlin goes on to say she'll use Aura contacts to find the whereabouts of these 2 devil fruits. Now, considering one of them is on Elbaph and one of them doesn't get mentioned, I guess that the speculation theories commence, because people could be speculating on that for days, weeks on end. But she does go on to say there's nothing about a frozen army of giants, which a lot of people found out about the Warhammer crew, the group of giants or 100 giants, via King Harold and Ja Rule's conversation. We found out about that Warhammer Pirates, the crew back in the day, who may or may not have allied with Joy Boy, we don't really know. And I said one of the silhouettes looks like oars. Well, considering a lot of people want to speculate that the giants we saw on Punk Hazard could be connected to this group. But the fact that she says it's frozen, I think is pretty much Oda confirming that it was in fact oars that we saw in the panel. Because when we saw Oars for the first time, he was frozen. I also found it interesting that Struser was also attached to the Rocks Pirates. So, but of course, Kaido's the one to go on to say maybe we should use our military force to like manipulate Elbaph and get those devil fruits. Immediately, all that does is get a kick in the face from his captain, because Zebek's like, no, if you talk like that again, I'm going to kill you because Harold is my friend. Now, I don't know if he means that literally or if he's just saying that because of what he says next, because he doesn't to say, listen up, Elbaph is the key to bringing down the Holy Land Marajoa. Now, considering what we found out recently in the present with the giants from Elbaph literally turning the tide of the war against the world government, I'm not too shocked by that, but Zebek mean that when he says King Harold is his friend, or is he only using that to like get closer so he can have Harold associate with Rocks because he did want King Harold to become a member of the Rocks Pirates and Harold refused. But now Zebek's got his all-star lineup, and now this is an all-star lineup established. Zebek's like, follow me and I'll take you to the World Summit. Now, is he talking about another revelry? And he's gonna, because he did say to Emu, I'm gonna go now, but I'm gonna come back one day. You know, he wants to become king of the world. So this is good. So more or less, he's using this crew to like get to Emu. So that's what I said in a previous review. So it looks like that's coming more and more true, which is why which is why I'm wondering if what he says about King Harold, is it true, or does he only use the word friend to try and manipulate a situation where he has King Harold and the backing of Elbaph on his side? Either way, with most of the Rocks Pirates, that's how Oda decides to end the chapter. So with Oda using these two chapters to like hype up the Rocks Pirates, it makes sense now because he has to circle it back to something that ties into the flashback, and that's the Devil Fruit. What I also find out is it looks like from what we see here, Gloriosa is pretty much going to be the last member to join the crew or be the last affiliate of the Rocks Pirates, because we don't really know, because she's currently, and remember this is highlighted early in the chapter by Oda, Shakuyaku ends up taking over Gloriosa in a position of Empress and a position of Captain. We don't know. We know that doesn't last too much longer, especially with Rayleigh in the mix, but we know she takes over Gloriosa's position. So is the reason that happened is because Gloriosa becomes a member of the Rocks Pirates, or does Zebek steal Gloriosa along the way? Because remember, there is the Davy back fights that Oda brought into the forefront with the previous chapter. Does anyone else find it weird that Strussen's also attached to this? We know for a fact this crew is all about themselves and not about each other, so they're not really like the Straw Hats. We can kind of like assume the Blackbeard Pirates operate the same way. And we see in this chapter that Loki has completely changed his ideology and the way he views things. He's completely rejected Elbaph and the way it lives. He wants to be like, well, like Rocks. So for better, like I said, for better or worse. Now, when it comes to like the Kuja Pirates and Oda hyping them up, oh yes, Oda could have like highlighted Gloriosa, but he chose to like use this opportunity to like highlight the rest of the previous empresses as well, because we got Shakuyaku, who was clearly aura farming in this chapter. I mean, she definitely had that aura like Boa Hancock. Gloriosa, even though she appeared like Boa Hancock, it's not even close. Look, Boa Hancock does not play second fiddle to anybody, especially on Amazon Lily. The only exception to who can rival her are those who have more admiration, just as much admiration for Luffy. One of which is currently on Elbaph in the form of Gerd. This is now how you know Oda is like using this opportunity to like. This was spawned off a SBS when he kind of like highlighted and showcased the previous Empress, the one that came before Boa Hancock, Tritoma. It made more sense why Oda would like use this flashback to like hype up the Empresses of that era, because Gloriosa was from the era that was hyped up from the legends like Rocks, Garp, and Roger. Then there came the next generation where Shaki was the one that took over. So that makes sense. And then following that, Tritoma takes over the position. And you saw Shakuyaku. Don't lie to yourself. You can make that statement that you would think that Shakuyaku was the mother of Boa Hancock. And honestly, if you didn't know any better and you read this chapter, I would not argue you. I would not combat that, because it definitely gives off the Boa Hancock vibes, which until she lit a cigarette up. But either way, she definitely had that Boa Hancock aura to her. But like I said earlier, Gloriosa was playing second fiddle, who was overshadowed by Shakuyaku, her first mate, by the way, in every way. Like, she got more popularity. Oda really has it going on with the Snake Empresses of One Piece, I will say that. Even Gloriosa was like second fiddle to Shakuyaku. But I do wonder if Oda is like highlighting the Kuja Pack, because like I said before, Gloriosa is the made sense because she becomes a member of the Rocks, or she becomes the final affiliate of the Rocks Pirates. She has to have some skill as well in order to become a member of the Rocks, especially with who's in this all-star lineup too. But Shakuyaku clearly is above and beyond, especially with what she does in this chapter. So I'm more surprised that she did become a member of the Rocks, but then maybe it has something to do with Rayleigh and his influence. It's cool that Oda hyped up the Kuja Pirates now, but I can't help but think maybe another reason that Oda is hyping up the Kuja Pirates, could this have something to do with him showing Boa Hancock sooner rather than later? And I've mentioned this at nauseum, and I've mentioned this at multiple times already, but considering Boa Hancock and Law were the only two noticeable characters that weren't shown during the Vegapunk broadcast, Law was mentioned but he wasn't shown. So are we going to get to see both characters, if not one or the other, sooner rather than later? I would say that's a strong possibility. Could Oda have Boa Hancock show up on Elbaph? That is another possibility, but I personally think it would have something to do with Cross Guild if it did. And maybe with Law too. Maybe you can tie both in if Oda wants to go that route. I don't think the Holy Knights are going to be the only players. I've said that multiple times. I'm sticking to that. So, because all Oda needed to do really is hype up and focus on Glorious Soa. He didn't do that, which I'm not against, because it's kind of cool that Oda gave Shaki some huge spotlight in this chapter from back in the day. Like I said before, Rayleigh is one lucky son of a bitch, and it goes to show you, even though Scarpa has like a Luffy mindset, like he wants to have fun, he clearly had the hots for it too, but unfortunately Rayleigh beats to it. All in all, I thought it was a great chapter, very simplistic chapter as well, to hype up the Rocks Pirates more specifically. I really enjoyed the stuff with the Kuja Pirates. I thought it was great, and I thought it was, like I said before, I think it was cool that Oda decided to highlight a different side to like Roger in a way that doesn't necessarily match up with Luffy, because we know Luffy wouldn't fall prey to what Roger does. So let me know what you guys think down below. That's going to do it for the guys. You guys know what to do. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up. I appreciate that. I appreciate all you guys' support when it comes to One Piece. Catch you guys later. Thanks guys. Bye.